the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix in Jeddah turned into a nightmare for Lewis Hamilton. What should have been a race to regain confidence and momentum ended up as a brutal reminder of just how far things have fallen. Starting in 7th, Hamilton failed to gain even a single position throughout the race, eventually crossing the finish line exactly where he had begun, in P7. It was a frustrating outcome, made even more painful by the fact that his teammate managed to secure the team's first podium of the season. And as if that weren't enough, Hamilton delivered a chilling confession about the car's performance, one that casts a dark shadow over the rest of his campaign. The situation now feels like it's spiraling. With a jaw-dropping 16-point gap opening up between the two drivers of the team headquartered in Maranello, one can't help but wonder, is there any realistic path to redemption for Hamilton in 2025? Because if Jeddah was meant to be a proving ground, the results were damning. The 7-time world champion didn't just miss expectations, he fell drastically short of them. At Ferrari, expectations were sky-high. But Hamilton simply couldn't keep up with Toller's pace. In qualifying alone, he lagged by nearly half a second, an eternity in Formula One terms. And when the lights went out on race day, the problems only grew worse. Over the full race distance, Hamilton trailed his teammate by close to 30 seconds, a stunning margin that highlights just how differently the two drivers are interacting with the machinery beneath them. Tire degradation was another dagger in the heart of Hamilton's weekend. While Toller masterfully managed his medium compounds, positioning himself to launch a successful attack for P3, Lewis struggled to maintain any sort of rhythm. His attempt to hold his ground on the same tire compound fell flat, and he had to settle for a bitterly disappointing P7. Looking back on his weekend with a mixture of frustration and disbelief, Hamilton didn't mince his words. "There wasn't a single moment where I felt at ease in the car." That quote alone tells you everything you need to know. He went on to acknowledge that the car, clearly, had the potential for a podium. Toller had proved that beyond any doubt. SH drove brilliantly today. "So I can't blame the machine," Hamilton admitted, before adding something far more troubling. "I honestly have no idea why I'm not feeling what he's feeling. I'm just not getting the same satisfaction." Digging into the telemetry, the root of his issues becomes even clearer. During qualifying, Hamilton struggled significantly at braking points, particularly in the first sector. His entries lacked the precision that Toller nailed corner after corner. In turn 16, for example, he was consistently braking earlier than ideal, a flaw that had been pointed out to him by the engineers beforehand. And yet, it seems the message didn't fully land. Now, with Ferrari bosses and top brass like Vasseur and even Benedetto Vigna watching closely, the pressure is mounting. The warning lights are blinking in Maranello. Hamilton's transition to Ferrari, once imagined as a glorious new chapter, now risks devolving into a cautionary tale. Fred Vasseur didn't hide his concern. He addressed the media with a sober reflection on Hamilton's underwhelming performance. "I had a brief chat with Lewis. It was a tough weekend for him. He looked out of sync at times, even during the race itself. He did have a strong opening phase in the second stint, but overall we need more consistency. From FP1 through every lap in qualifying. The potential is definitely there, but we must unlock it." Perhaps the most jarring comment came from Hamilton himself, one that might not sit well with his new employers. "I feel like I need a brain transplant to fully connect with this car." A statement that's half in jest, perhaps, but also disturbingly honest. It paints a picture of a driver disconnected from the machine he's supposed to master, a world champion battling not just for pace, but for understanding, for synergy, for some kind of emotional alignment with the very cockpit that's supposed to elevate him. It's a dangerous spiral. One that, if not corrected soon, could see Hamilton's time at Ferrari go from a bold gamble to a complete disaster. The alarm bells are ringing louder with each passing weekend for Lewis Hamilton. The 7-time world champion, once the paragon of consistency and composure under pressure, now finds himself grappling with a mounting sense of disconnection. His recent post-race comments are becoming increasingly unsettling, revealing not only his personal frustration but also a broader struggle to find synergy with the car. Telemetry data doesn't lie, and right now, it's painting a grim picture. It clearly shows that Hamilton isn't remotely close to operating the SF-25 at its limit, especially when the machine demands precision and aggression, qualities that Max Verstappen regularly channels in his surgical manipulation of the RB21. While neither Ferrari driver is currently performing at Verstappen's extraordinary level, there's at least one constant. The Monegasque driver is still fighting tooth and nail to keep Ferrari relevant in the constructors' standings. He's dragging the car forward, keeping it competitive. Hamilton, however, is stuck in limbo. When questioned about his continued struggle to adapt to the car's unique characteristics, Hamilton tried to strike a tone of resilience, but the undertone was still unmistakably troubled. "It's not the end of the world," he admitted. "But there are so many moments when I'm just sitting there, not extracting performance." He broke it down with brutal honesty, losing 2/10 in the final sector, 3/10 in the opening one, and another 10th through the middle section. These aren't minor margins, they're race-defining gaps. "It's just not good enough," he confessed. "But I'm working incredibly hard to turn it around. It's not easy, not at all. But I keep breathing, staying grounded, trying to stay positive." Hamilton's self-awareness is painful. He knows the fans are growing restless. He knows the Ferrari engineers and senior leadership are far from satisfied. And he knows, more than anyone, that his own standards are nowhere near being met. No one's happy. Not the fans, not the team, not the bosses. And I'm certainly not happy either. But I won't stop. I'll keep pushing, keep believing, and keep doing everything I can to make it work. That kind of attitude is essential, but sentiment alone won't silence the critics. The biggest concern about Hamilton's switch to Ferrari has always revolved around his ability to develop and adapt, not just race. Throughout his career, despite his immense talent and silverware collection, there has been skepticism over whether Hamilton is a natural at refining and evolving a car's design through feedback, a role that's crucial at Ferrari. Some doubters argue that while he's a phenomenal racer, he's never been known as a standout car developer, especially compared to figures like Schumacher or even Verstappen. His first world title came early in his career, during his sophomore season. And since then, his dominance with Mercedes was often attributed more to the machine beneath him than to any behind-the-scenes car evolution masterminded by Hamilton himself. This lingering reputation now haunts him at Ferrari, where the project is as much about development as it is about speed. If Ferrari decides to pivot early toward focusing on their 2026 car project, as is being considered, it could spell disaster for Hamilton's short-term ambitions. That kind of early shift would all but doom his chances of mounting a serious campaign in 2025. Every race that slips away now is another nail in the coffin of a potential comeback. And at this point, the most glaring weakness in his game is crystal clear: single-lap performance. His one-lap pace simply isn't where it needs to be. That was once again painfully evident at the Jeddah circuit. While analyzing his qualifying struggles, Hamilton himself reflected on how rough the weekend had been overall. "Honestly, I wasn't really in the mix the whole weekend. I think that was the case in almost every session. So just making it to Q3 and qualifying P7. I'm genuinely grateful for that." It wasn't a spectacular final lap by any means, Hamilton admitted as much. But he did feel that small steps had been made over the course of the weekend. "I needed a better final lap, no doubt. But like I said, I'm grateful just to be in the fight. I'm doing everything I can to connect with this car during qualifying laps, but right now, it's incredibly difficult for me." And this, perhaps, is the crux of the issue. Hamilton isn't just dealing with a learning curve. He's in the middle of a confidence crisis. The connection between driver and machine, so essential in Formula One, is still not there. The harmony is missing. And the clock is ticking. The 2025 season is barely 5 races away, and the scrutiny will only intensify. Those still clinging to the belief that Hamilton's issues are merely transitional might want to look toward China, a race that will serve as a key litmus test. Ferrari insiders, including performance analyst Marco Vasseur, have pointed to it as a critical opportunity for Hamilton to prove he can manage the car when the conditions suit. If he performs well there, they argue, there's no excuse for not replicating that level across the season. Meanwhile, team principal Fred Vasseur offered further insight into the technical setbacks holding Hamilton back. "We've been consistently losing 3/10 in Sector 1 from the very beginning of the weekend. It continued into qualifying. This sector is just killing us. But everything's still possible. We know where we're losing time. We just haven't solved it yet. So here lies the challenge. Can Hamilton adapt fast enough to salvage this chapter of his career before it unravels entirely? The data is ruthless. The margin for error is microscopic. 3/10 might not sound like much, but in a grid this close, it's the gap between pole position and a spot in the midfield. And right now, Lewis Hamilton is drifting toward the latter. The remarks from the 7-time world champion are becoming increasingly unsettling. His tone has shifted from cautious optimism to visible concern, and the telemetry data is reinforcing the fears. Hamilton is miles away from finding the edge of performance when the car demands absolute precision. This sharpness, the ability to push a machine to its razor-thin limit, is something Verstappen executes effortlessly with the RB21. While neither Ferrari driver is currently on the Dutchman's level, at least the Monegasque continues to carry the team in the Constructors' Championship, keeping their hopes alive. When asked once again about the ongoing adaptation issues, Hamilton acknowledged the problem while trying to stay composed. "It's not the end of the world," he said, "but there are so many moments where I'm just sitting there, unable to extract what's needed." He laid out the numbers, losing 2/10 in Sector 3, 3/10 in Sector 1, and another 10th in the middle sector. "It's simply not good enough," he admitted. "But I'm putting in the work. I'm grinding through it. It's far from easy. I'm just trying to stay calm, keep faith in myself, stay upbeat, and keep pushing forward. That's the mission." But this is exactly where Hamilton needs to shine. One of the most persistent criticisms about his move to Ferrari revolves around adaptation and technical feedback. Many within the paddock have questioned whether Hamilton was truly the right replacement, pointing to his mixed record as a car developer. Despite his 7 world titles, skeptics argue that he's rarely been the architect of a car's evolution, especially compared to other greats who played a more hands-on role. Hamilton's first championship came in only his second year, and many of his subsequent titles were won with dominant machinery. That legacy, while golden, casts a shadow when development and adaptation are what's required most. Exactly the situation he now faces at Maranello. And if Ferrari decides to shift its resources early toward the 2026 regulations, it will only make matters worse for Hamilton. Such a move could effectively shut the door on any meaningful title push in 2025, making this year feel more like damage control than a stepping stone. At this stage, Hamilton's qualifying performance has become one of the most pressing concerns. In a grid this competitive, 3/10 of a second can separate first place from the third row, or worse. That gap was once again evident in Jeddah. "Reflecting on the weekend," Hamilton admitted, "I felt completely out of place from the very beginning. I think it was the same in every single session. Honestly, just making it to Q3 and finishing 7th felt like an achievement." It wasn't a standout final lap, Hamilton made that clear. But he did see some progress. "I needed a cleaner last lap, for sure. But still, I'm thankful to have made it that far. Right now, I'm really struggling to connect with this car in qualifying conditions. That's the part I'm finding incredibly difficult." With the 2025 season only a few races away, time is not on Hamilton's side. For those still arguing that his issues come down to car balance, the upcoming Chinese Grand Prix might be a crucial reference point. Ferrari insiders, including technical chief Marco Vasseur, have suggested that if Hamilton can perform well there, then the car isn't the problem. It's just about unlocking it. Team boss Fred Vasseur also elaborated on the recurring issues. "We've been losing around 3/10 in Sector 1 since the first session of the weekend, and it didn't change in qualifying. That part of the circuit is killing us. But I still believe it's all within reach. We just need to fix the pieces. In summary, Hamilton is caught in a difficult loop, fighting the car, doubting his connection with it, and racing against time. His results aren't meeting expectations, and the patience of fans, engineers, and executives is wearing thin. The gap in performance is small on paper, but enormous in this sport. And unless something shifts soon, that gap could become a chasm. The car's balance remains elusive. Lewis Hamilton was nearly 9/10 off the pole position in qualifying, and it's clear he still hasn't fully bonded with the machine. He's struggling to unlock performance on this circuit, something made even harder by the unforgiving nature of Jeddah's tight, barrier-lined layout. But the harsh truth is unavoidable. Hamilton is having serious trouble adapting to the SF25, and the high hopes Ferrari once pinned on the 2025 season are slowly, yet unmistakably, fading. Speculation is growing around Maranello. Whispers suggest that development for the 2026 car may soon take priority, given the lackluster results seen so far in this campaign. And honestly, no one should be shocked if that pivot happens sooner rather than later. If we shift our gaze to the Drivers' Championship, only a handful of drivers seem capable of consistently challenging the current dominant trio of Norris, Piastri, and Verstappen. George Russell appears to be the only other contender with the potential to do so over a long season. Meanwhile, the SF25 has proven to be a difficult beast, erratic, temperamental, and uncooperative. And Hamilton's feedback after each race is increasingly becoming the exact kind of language you don't want to hear if you're the one managing his car setup. Still, Fred Vasseur made a bet, a bold one. He banked on Hamilton's experience, not just as a driver, but as a culture changer. That's something Hamilton's father, Anthony, also touched on recently. For now, though, the mission seems borderline impossible. Changing Ferrari from within isn't just about pace, it's about resetting decades of pressure, politics, and internal expectation. When asked about Hamilton's broader influence and what the future might look like, Vasseur said, "Lewis brings with him 2 decades of Formula One experience, spanning multiple eras and teams. Almost 10 years with McLaren, 12 with Mercedes. It's always valuable to have someone with that kind of vision and background. He's here to help us move forward." But even with that pedigree, the SF25 isn't an evolution of last year's car, it's practically a fresh concept. And right now, it seems they're still searching for the right setup and the right equilibrium. Watching Hamilton trail the McLarens by a massive 7/10 across the weekend was tough to stomach, especially for fans who expected fireworks, not frustration. It even prompted Sky Sports F1's Martin Brundle to question whether Ferrari is already beginning to wear Hamilton down mentally, or if he simply can't bend this car to his will. Brundle observed that there have been entire race weekends in the past where Hamilton wouldn't lose 7/10 of a second to anyone, let alone in a single sector. "There's something clearly off," Brundle said. "It's rare to see Hamilton so disconnected, not just from the pace, but from the car itself. It's visibly awkward, and even uncomfortable to watch and listen to at times." He speculated that perhaps Hamilton is heading down the wrong path with his setup decisions, or that the collaboration with his race engineer hasn't clicked yet. But whatever the explanation may be, it's obvious. Lewis doesn't trust this car. He's not in sync with it. And when a driver of his caliber is losing 7/10 in just the first sector alone, it's more than just bad luck. It's a system that isn't working. So, with all this unfolding, the question becomes unavoidable. Do you really believe Hamilton's fortunes will turn around in the coming races? Or, more crucially, is this the final push that will make Ferrari shift its entire focus to 2026 and abandon the current car development altogether? Let us know what you think down in the comments. And once you've shared your thoughts, make sure to check out the video that's now popping up on your screen. It dives even deeper into the crisis brewing inside Ferrari.